Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're starting a new unit today on U.S. military power and how we become one of the great nations of the world. Well, great in terms of military strength. Anyway, this lesson is about U.S. expansion. Oh boy, we've been expanding since we started. And we're running out of places to go. Let's see what we do next. Well, first, let's look at reasons for expansion. Throughout the 1800s, expansion carried the U.S. from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, from sea to shining sea, and we have the United States as a great continental power. But by the 1880s, the U.S. started to look around at what everybody else was doing, colonies and stuff. Hey, we used to be one of those. Now we can have those. And we wanted to go establish some overseas colonies of ourselves, some people that we can rule and boss around. And one day they can even rise up in rebellion against us. Let's go see if we can do that. And so we go off exploring to try to see what parts of the world we can conquer. Now, the reasons for doing this, well, there are several. Let's look at the economic interests. Industrialists, those big businessmen, saw colonization as a means to acquire raw materials. We could go out and take other people's stuff. That would be awesome. And then we can bring it back to the United States and make stuff out of it, use our factories. And then maybe we can go out and sell that to the rest of the world too. Cool. Farmers and businessmen pointed out that colonies would create this additional market to sell their products. So we'll go over to Cuba. We'll take over Cuba, make them a colony, and take all of their stuff from Cuba into the United States, use our factories to make it into, finished products, and then we'll sell it to the Cubans. This will be perfect. Let's do this. What could go wrong? We, of course, didn't like it when the British did this to us, but We also had military interests. The military believed that expanding economic interests overseas would require a greater military presence in foreign countries. So if we push ourselves out into the world, we'll have a larger, more powerful military. It's a way to make our nation stronger. We've got more interests than we need to protect more interests, so we build a bigger military. So the military leaders are all on board with this. A bigger army, you say? Let's do it. We also have Americans. We kind of do this. We have this belief in cultural superiority. We believe that we're better than others. Our American history is just chock full of this. Throughout the 1800s, Americans came to believe, many already believed, but came to believe that their race, culture, government, and religion were superior to those of others, that we are great because we are great and we are American. Yeah, that was our belief back then. Many still have that belief now, but colonization was an opportunity to spread this belief and to try to prove it to the world. It was our opportunity to spread democracy and Christianity, to make the rest of the world more like us. And so we pushed for expansion. We had our economic interests, military interests, and our cultural reasons. So what do we do? Well, one of the ways we do this is actually quite tame and reasonable. William Seward, who was Secretary of State to Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Johnson, was one of these guys who really wanted expansion. And under his guidance, the U.S. purchased Alaska from Russia. Hey, that sounds like a reasonable way to expand. Hey, you see that chunk of land up there? We'd like it. Hey, Russia, can we buy that from you? Oh, let's negotiate a price. Both sides agree? Good. And we expanded. We got Alaska from Russia in the 1860s. Now, Americans didn't like this too much, actually. Seward was mocked for this, ridiculed for this. Purchasing Alaska, they said, this is Seward's icebox, or this is Seward's polar bear garden. What did we buy up there? This is a joke. We don't stand by buying things. But in the long term, the purchase really, 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 really worked out for the United States. This was one of the great bargains we made. Alaska cost only about $7.2 million. And shortly after buying it, we discovered gold. And a little while later, we discover oil. And now we have huge tourism dollars coming from Alaska. It wound up being an incredible deal, but Seward was mocked for it. All right, Hawaii. And the story of Hawaii is a great one of Americans being reasonable to. Oh, no. No, we weren't so reasonable with this one. See, Hawaii is going to be a colony in some of the worst forms of colonization. See, Hawaii had been colonized as early as the early 1800s, but by the 1880s, American sugar plantations dominated the economy. Americans moving to Hawaii, clearing out the jungle, removing the native Hawaiians, and saying, hey, we're going to grow sugar here. This will be great. The Hawaiians kind of grew to not like this too much, and they didn't like how much the Americans were trying to control their economy. So in 1891, Queen Liliuokalani comes to power in Hawaii, and she challenges the influence of these planters. She says, these Americans here are trying to control Hawaiian interests, things that they should have no business in. So we need to stand up against them. We need to push them out. But when the queen pushed against the planters revolted. The planters armed themselves, and they called for help from the United States government. And with the help of U.S. Marines, the U.S. sent our army over there to help these planters. They overthrow Queen Liliuokalani, and they establish a new government and an independent, briefly, nation of Hawaii. But they do petition fairly quickly to be annexed by the United States. That is, for the United States to make Hawaii an official part of the United States, and the United States will eventually annex them. Not right away, though. President Grover Cleveland comes to power in the interim here, and he looks at this and is like, man, we just got a whole bunch of rich dudes who went over to Hawaii. They wanted to become richer. They bullied somebody else's government, and the United States stepped in to help the bullies? That's not good. We shouldn't be doing it. That's not who we are as a country. And he refused to annex it, said, nope, I don't want to have anything to do with this. This stinks. So the planters governed Hawaii by themselves until 1898, when Grover Cleveland was out. A new president came in, President McKinley, and President McKinley agreed to annex Hawaii. And that is the lovely story of how the United States gets Hawaii. We backed a whole bunch of rich dudes who wanted to exploit the island's natural resources. Remember how I talked about, economic interest and exploiting natural resources, raw materials, sugar, so that our businessmen wanted to put colonies there? Yeah, that's what we did with Hawaii. Yeah. Go us. All right, that's all for today. I hope you learned something today. Maybe even enjoyed the lesson a little bit. I'll see you next time. Farewell.